Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equity Story. I'm here with the Wolf, and just general share advice and not personal advice, as per this beautiful disclaimer on the website with lovely little polo mint. What do you think of that logo, Wolf? Our little polo mint.
Yeah, look, it's unique.
What looks looks a bit Macquarie Bankish, don't you
It
think?
does look a little bit Macquarie Banky.
Yeah.
But look, it's well, what can you say? I mean, it's a nice little logo.
I mean, if you
Corporate
actually,
colors.
let's have a look at the Macquarie Bank logo. I mean, I think
Remember they were used to be called the was it the golden not donut was when they or the silver sorry the silver donut, not the golden, the silver donut because they had that similar type logo.
let's have a look at the one they've got now. I mean, I'm sure they must be getting a little bit worried then.
Well,
Well,
just wait for the letter from the lawyers.
uh, I don't know. Is it that similar? Let's hope not.
I think it is, except one is silver, the other one's blue.
Okay, there's a Macquarie one. That's I don't know. That's just theirs is like black and
The only they can get us is on this is a donut and this is a donut.
uh,
That's the only way they can get us.
I don't know. I don't think that you can. Yeah, the circle. I
I
don't know.
wonder who came up with that though.
A lot of people have a circle, don't they?
Hmm.
I
But
think you.
what does a circle actually mean
No,
in this
me.
instance?
I think it's like the circle of life.
Okay, but very deep.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. A company starts and then eventually it'll finish. A new company.
Right. So
I
it's
don't
like
know.
a black hole, in other words, you mean?
Yeah, apart from Sol Patterson's, that's always
Right.
here.
Okay, fair enough. Which has been going for 100 years.
Hundreds of years, definitely.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we talked about it because we never do. It's like, what is that circle supposed to be?
Yeah, they got very upset to me because they said when it was done, they said, Dave, what do you think of the circle? I said, looks like a polo mint. Well,
Oh God.
um, but I like it. I mean, polo mints. Who doesn't like polo mints?
Yeah, well.
Right. All
It's
right.
very soothing. It's a nice color. I've got to give it that.
Yeah, it's nicer color than Macquarie. Anyway, so I don't think Macquarie Bank are shaking their boots just yet, Wolf.
No, no, definitely not. But if anyone's from Macquarie here listening in, you didn't hear nothing. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Nothing. Didn't hear anything.
No,
All right. We just mind our own business. All
that's right.
right. Um, but what a
Hmm.
great company. In fact, no one loves Macquarie Bank more than us, Wolf.
Exactly right. Can you actually, while we're speaking of it, can we just chuck the chart in because it's recovering very
Let's
nicely.
have a look at it.
And maybe by the end of the week we could be going, "Hello, me, I'm buying you back."
Look at that. Does look good. Let's just, yeah, just wait the end of the week. But I mean, wow, doesn't it look good? Let's have a look at the daily. See, that's the trouble. Needs to do more, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, well, like I said, maybe by the end of the week, you just need to do slightly bit more. But if you're a long-term investor, I'd say the first nibble would be around this between 181 and 190.
Yeah. Right, Wolf.
Hmm.
Um, so fairly quiet today, which is good.
It is. No,
Um,
look, the calm before the storm, so to speak, because we've got the half-yearly reports upon us.
and they're going to be coming thick and fast. Now, AMC confirmed
Mm-hmm.
their guidance, so tick in the box. It's
Yep.
going sideways, but it's going to hold. It looks like a good enough to hold trend anyway.
One hopes so. It's a decent stock. And what I like about that is, first of all, obviously they reiterated the guidance, which is nice. It was a nice result, but it gives me hope for my little play of ORA, Dave, that we might be onto something that's delivers a decent result as well, and possibly we might see this charged back up to that 370 or 380.
Well, it's a similar looking chart. It's more of a conservative play. I know you sort of you like it from that, but strong little play with a good little bit of growth. Chart looking good. Certainly, if you're in it, it's definitely a hold.
Yep, I
Um,
like.
Wolf, obviously BRN. Uh, I mean,
Still charging up.
yeah, I mean, again, it's up another 7% holding trend for really just a chip patent that's been passed in the USA. I mean, big deal. But sort of
For
really,
the FOMOs, it makes a huge big difference, Dave. That's why it's going up. This is all the FOMO needs. Is a bit of an announcement saying we have got a patent or we have opened a new office.
well, listen, it's when everyone loves you, they're going to buy the story. It's a
Exactly.
little. I think it's like the Beatles. They said was it in 1968? After they'd had so many number ones, they said if they released Old MacDonald Had a Farm, it would have gone to number one. So momentum is incredible.
It
Uh,
certainly is. And well, and that's a good analogy. Absolutely. That's exactly, if you're hot, doesn't matter what you come up with, you're going to go up.
Telstra, uh, Wolf, the holding trend,
Mm-hmm.
obviously interesting. Just needs to poke its little head back up, and we're in there for a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Again, in this market, we want to see where it is by the end of the week. But fill us in with Telstra. They putting a lot of money in infrastructure projects. How do they sort of expect
It's a
to get?
double-edged sword, isn't it, Dave? I mean, you've got a company that we like because it's changing its stripes. It's moving towards more a technology play than anything else. It's sold some infrastructure assets already. So it's probably on a path back to growth again, right? However, there's double-edged sword for me where you've got an extra bit of capex that they've just announced today, at 1 point, I think $2 or $3 billion, spending on 2 different type projects, which is not great because it's probably going to mean that the bottom line is going to get hit again, right? So maybe the dividends are going to still be subdued somewhat. It used to be 7% odd and everyone loved it, but now it's back to about 3-4% at most. Saying that, it's money that's probably well spent for the future of the company. So a bit more pain, I suppose, from I don't know, bottom line point of view. But I think these assets are critical, and it will definitely add something towards the future.
Okay, well, if just for a layman like myself, yeah, we've obviously got the system, what do they call it, the one we have all over Australia at the moment, laid down by the government.
The NBN, you mean? Yep.
NBN, right? So if we got the NBN everywhere, why are they putting more money into infrastructure? And is that going to be? Are they sort of? Is the NBN coming out of date? What's the reason for that? I thought the whole idea with the NBN, where the Labor government spent 30 to 50 billion dollars, right, of taxpayers' money, was that this just solves the infrastructure telephone problems throughout the whole of Australia, but it doesn't look like it does. The fact that they're going to have to, Telstra looking to invest a lot of money in these infrastructure projects. Explain what's going on there.
Yeah, well, obviously NBN is a big network of infrastructure with the cabling giving us, I suppose, higher speed access. But remember that the companies, the telcos themselves, they've got their own infrastructure as well on top of that. So they are looking after their own stuff. Like Telstra is, I think, talking about, just reading through here, building and managing the ground infrastructure and fiber network in Australia for Viasat, so a global technical company. So they are basically adding more capacity, adding more, I suppose, further infrastructure to it to make it even more viable in a 5G environment. Is that going to help NBN? I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. I'm not 100% sure exactly how all these things are connected. There will be some sort of crossovers, no doubt, because I remember NBN didn't go all the way to the homes. They were using the last little bit networks to go from the street towards the house using the old copper network. So that's where they saved some money. But at the end of the day, it didn't obviously work because it's now really struggling. So I don't know. Look, I think I tend to stick to what Telstra does. They've been looking after their own stuff for a long time. So if they need to spend more money on it, then fair enough. And
because there seems to be that friction between Telstra and NBN. Because when I phone up Telstra, they go, "Oh, that's NBN, right?"
Well, it is a separate entity. It is a separate entity. It's not owned by Telstra.
I know they blame them if something goes wrong, and then you phone NBN, and there seems to be this real issue between the two.
This is why sharing infrastructure sometimes is not a good idea, because it's exactly why it's a blame game.
Yeah. So do you think there's part of Telstra just really thinking, we've got better technology. It's going to be more advanced. We're going to give better service out to all our members, and MBN could be a gone thing in 20 years.
Maybe. Yeah, it could be the worst $40 billion ever spent by the government, potentially, right? So, I think Telstra is looking after its own assets, no doubt. Whether it's going to help NBN or not, I'm not so sure. But I'm happy for Telstra to spend their own money on their own stuff for the future of the company. So it's a positive for me. But short term, like I said, a big capex is probably doesn't going to help the financials in a dividend way or bottom line. But it doesn't matter. Like I said, long term, this is a long term story. It's still going to give us probably opportunity to trade it. So I'm still overall pretty happy.
All right, XF1 came out again, a strong looking chart, Wolf, in a really difficult climate. Technically, maybe you'd like to see this bounce over 80, but on that announcement, if you're in it, you'd be holding it, correct?
Yeah, you would. I mean, it's not that bad, is it? I mean, they've come out with another little positive announcement. FX1, it's been on a tear. Recent quarterlies were excellent, right? With an increasing number of customers, increasing revenues, and really something a little bit different model-wise. So for me, it's literally starting to grow on me. I think this is maybe one of those disrupting type forces in this space that maybe SEEK needs to have a look at.
Right. Just talk about JRL Jindalee, because they came out with some pretty consistent lithium intercepts, Wolf.
Look, again, this is a lithium story really in the US. Talking about it's the biggest, I think, lithium deposit in the US. I think 1 billion tons, at whatever the grade is, to give them a significant amount of lithium in there. Saying that, it is, I read an article just trying to get my head around exactly what are the good things, what are the bad things in there. There's a couple of things in there that potentially still could be a problematic issue. So they are in, I think, Nevada, right? There was talk that they're not going to get ever ground permits to actually go and drill anything. They did that, but getting a drilling permit versus actually mining is a very different kettle of fish, right? So I still got that a big question mark whether they can do it. The other one, it is a little bit different deposit than normally. It's in clays. So again, the actual processing of it on a commercial scale, I got to question that. Maybe on a pilot scale it might work, but can you work on a commercial scale? So for me, there's the big two things. So look, it's a progress thing. Play it as a lithium play. Once we see more boxes tick, then maybe we get more comfortable with it. But for the moment, it's just a trending story for me.
Yeah, and it's a trending story that's not trending at the moment, Wolf. It's
so
just going sideways. Yeah. So the other one was Haas.
Yep.
So again, they had a 140 million loan approved, Wolf, for their rare earths project. Now, this chart is looking very, very good. Now, the market's liking that. I think if you got that sort of price action by the end of the week, closing at record highs, you look at that. There's a good chance that's going to go higher. What's your thought on Hastec?
Look, it's a rare earths play, right? So it's got that tailwinds behind it from just the industry point of view. Today's announcement that they got loan funding from NIF, which is the National Infrastructure Funding body, right? That's obviously giving money away to potential or, I suppose, key projects around Australia. So this is one of them. So it's quite interesting that they've got, I think, one of the first ones that they got it for rare earths. So positive, but still, they still need another, I think, 300 million odd funding-wise to actually get this project off and running. But they can start doing stuff with 140 mil, no doubts. It's, I think, payable over the next 13 years back. So I think I'm not being skeptical, but I think probably the government can write that off.
But they seem to have an excellent deposit, don't they, Hastec?
Look, they all got some sort of deposits, right? Whether it can make it work in a probably high in price environment, they can probably make it work. I still prefer Linus's high grade body that we know they can work in a high or low priced environment. Everything else is really second rate compared to Linus, but still, look, there's probably definitely a space for another one or two rarest players, no doubt. Whether it's Hastings, whether it's Arafura, or whether it's some other little play, I don't know yet. At least, look, they've got that funding. Big tick, not ticks. Big tick. So well done to them.
All right. Now, Wolf, we're going to talk about two American stocks. And, it just shows you how important it is to look at the momentum. And, Google, we did speak about this yesterday, looking very good. By the end of the week, if it looks like that, you'd be buying it, okay?
Yep.
As long as Putin behaves himself. And we'll talk about Putin in a second. But another story that announced last night was PayPal.
Yep.
And there was a question on Ask the Analyst Live about would you buy PayPal? And we said last night, no, it's below trend. Why would you buy that? I mean, obviously there's a sign the people in the know have been selling, really. I mean, that's a pretty serious sell down, maybe by half within 6 months. So, people must have a feeling or know that things obviously are not going brilliantly there.
You'll probably just see the slowdown of growth, right? That's why you're probably thinking it's elevated. The great growth is probably past them. Now they're coming back to some sort of normality. So we're going to have to re-rate the share price. So that's what's been happening with PayPal. And this morning, after market, they released their report and it wasn't great. So after market, they're down 17%, Dave.
Back down
that's
to what?
Back to $150, maybe even lower. We'll see how the market reacts actually when the market opens.
So really what they're likely to really come back near to that 100.
Maybe. I mean, if that growth is, because the outlook was pretty weak and a downgrade really to earnings. So for me, that's most likely going down.
Okay, Wolf, that's
interesting with Google though, that because they also released their report after markets and their price is up about 2 or 3%, and they are splitting their stock. So no $3,000 anymore. I think it's 20-1. So we're going to have it back to what, about $200, maybe $150, somewhere around there.
Okay, great. A little bit more affordable.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get one share for your $3,000.
Wolf, there's a really interesting article that we've been reading about Russia, Ukraine, and we're going to call these the war stocks. If there is a war, or suddenly we hear Putin is charging into Ukraine, there are potentially stocks here in Australia that could benefit pretty strongly about this, because Russia, if Russia does invade Ukraine, we'd expect a lot of embargoes against Russia, sanctions, embargoes, whatever, right? And they are some of the biggest importers of nickel, coal, palladium, wheat, to name but a few, oil, gas.
You mean exporters, not importers?
Exporters, yeah, right. So companies that could benefit from that would be companies like S32. Yeah. So what we're saying to everyone is just get these on your watch list. It should be really beneficial to BHP and Rio and really help them hold above trend. I mean, STO, Santos, it's actually looking quite nice in the charts. Should benefit from it. I mean,
can you imagine gas supplies being shut off?
Oh, yeah, I know.
This is going to be bloody, could be $100 spike for all we know.
Precisely. So Origin could benefit, right?
Yes.
Woodside, Coalplays, NAC, WHC could benefit from it.
Yeah.
Grain Corp. And funny enough, all these stories are actually holding quite a nice trend, aren't they? In a tough market, look, Grain Corp looking very, very nice, would benefit. And obviously they're big exporters of aluminium, and maybe AWC could benefit. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Can you give me one so we can have 10 stocks? Elders?
We could. Yeah, why not? Let's put in Elders in there. Yeah,
Right.
it's a great
Okay. We're
stock.
just big stocks. So, and again, elders could benefit from it and maybe get back to that 12. So there's 10 stories there that could benefit if suddenly we wake up one morning and we find the Russians are invading.
Mm. No, I like that. I like that list because, like I said, it's all about, I suppose, how we think things it could play out. So I think we are getting closer and closer to some sort of action by Russia, right? And again, my timing, being cynical, is Olympics are coming up in 3 days' time, right? We've seen previously, and I think someone mentioned it on the news, that Russia previous to a couple of conflicts happened during events like these because it deflects. Everyone's concentrating on Olympics, and then they quietly go and do something else, like Crimea happened, and I think another place happened as well. So that's one thing, but also I suppose Russia doesn't want to see their own Olympians being banned maybe at the Olympics, or maybe they'll do it right at the end of the Olympics. Same face. Oh. So I'm just being very cynical here. I'm just thinking this is probably the timing now. If they're going to do it now. They can't keep 100,000 troops at the border forever because it's cost a lot of money. So they've got to do one way or the other. Either do it or get out, right? Go back. So probably we're going to find out in the next 2 months whether this is going to happen or not. So we're on tender hooks with the markets. Yeah, so then the next thing is, if it does happen, sanctions. How hard is everyone going to come down, or are they just huffing and puffing and not going to do anything? We don't know. I mean, that's unfortunately, Dave. We've seen historically speaking a lot of talk, but really bugger all action by a NATO and everything else, right? So that's also a possibility. That they also are wary that if putting sanctions on Russia could spike these prices up, but it's going to just stoke more inflation. Do we really need that, right? At this point in time? So there's a lot of questions, isn't there? So for me, let's see the first steps, what's going to happen here, and then we're going to make it. But definitely that list is ready to go if things happen how we think it might happen.
All right. On that note, Wolf, so possibly, okay, if there is I mean, maybe the market all goes red, and these are the stocks you'd be looking to nibble away out, nibble into.
Dave, even though it doesn't happen, this is good stocks anyway to have on your portfolio because they are trending.
Yeah, they're all trending, and the sector's pretty hot anyway.
Exactly.
Oil and gas is still pretty hot, isn't it?
Yeah. So without Russia-Ukraine conflict, it's still decently looking pretty good on its own.
And yeah, listen, Origin can break out a little bit. I mean, maybe we can put that as a trend on Friday.
Agree. Now, last thing I want to talk about before we go is you mentioned to me Early Pay this morning. What do you think of this one? And with another BNPL player. However, I'm just looking through the actual announcement, Dave. These guys are actually profitable. Hang on, this is the only one of those buy now pay later that's profitable. So I'm thinking it must not be a buy now pay later type story, and I don't think it is. Early Pay, they're talking about invoice finance products. So maybe it's something a little bit different than your thing. So maybe it's something to have a look at for us. So leave it with me. I'll have a look. But the chart doesn't look too bad. It's certainly not classified as a buy now pay later stock.
Well, P of 14 and a dividend of 5%.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually breaking up very, very nicely, Wolf.
So it's on my watch list, Dave. I'm going to have a read of it to see if it makes any sense.
Market cap of 133 million. And an upgrade to guidance, which is always good.
Exactly. And growing very, very strongly, right? So.
All right. On that note, thanks very much, Wolfie. And thanks for everyone for listening to Equity Story. And hopefully, let's hope we don't have to use those war stocks. But anyway, there are some war stocks if it happens.
Please don't. I've got a trip planned to Europe. Please don't.
Yeah, don't fly over Poland. All right. Thanks, Wolf. See you, mate.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.